Hey, what's going on YouTube? My name's David and these are my best tips for those who are looking to build their first gaming PC. This sped up video in the background is me installing my PC's motherboard. I apologize, I don't have better background video that goes more in depth component by component, but these tips are very general and don't require step-by-step instructions. Later on, I will have some Battlefield 3 gameplay in the background, so without further ado, let's get into the commentary. Tip number 1 is to remember to have fun. You're building a PC for video games or creative software, something to do for chilling in your spare time. You should have realistic expectations of what you can hope to accomplish in your first build. You don't have to put pressure on yourself, and you definitely don't have to perceive pressure from others to be perfect. There's no timeline other than the one you set for yourself, so take your time and enjoy the experience. Tip number 2, set goals and a budget. Before selecting any components, ask yourself, what do I want my PC to be able to do? Choose the resolution you want to game at, your graphical settings target, and your frames per second target for modern and near future games. Do you want to play games on Ultra at 60 frames at 1080p, or play games in 3D across 3 screens? Once you have your goals, set a budget to select components that will help you reach those goals. A lot of times your goals exceed what your budget will allow, so you have to make sacrifices. You don't need 3 GTX Titans if you want to play at 60 frames per second at 1080p. You should build based on what you want to do, not to compare yourself to others. It doesn't matter if someone else has a quad SLI custom water-cooled rig with the CPU clocked at 5 GHz. There is always something better. Only concern yourself with what's the best for you and you only. Tip number 3 is to ask a lot of questions. There's many websites on the internet like Tom's Hardware or Reddit Build a PC that has great advice for their members for new PC builders. There's no such thing as too many questions when it comes to building a PC for the first time. It's actually worse if you don't ask enough questions. Getting correct answers prevent costly mistakes. Even if you are reading a step-by-step PC building guide, chances are there's going to be minor differences in components depending on your goal set in part 2. Builds will largely be similar, but there are going to be subtle procedural differences. Make sure you are clear on those. Tip number 4 is to take any advice with a grain of salt. Only you have your best interest in mind. Any advice from a single individual online should be taken not just with a grain, but the entire salt shaker, because they're basing their advice on their own experience, and everyone has their biases. Yes, even my advice is not end-all be-all. If someone says fractal but you are set on Corsair, go with what you want. Reviews of computer components are best from a tech review website, where a lot of people often test together. Tip number 5 is to check compatibility of your parts. PC Part Picker is a great website for this. You have to make sure your GPU is not too long for your case, your motherboard socket is compatible with the CPU, and you have to remove any other possible discrepancies. Tip number 6, read your manual. This is especially important when it comes to motherboards and CPU coolers because different sockets have different mounting solutions. Tip number 7, plan for upgradability. This is very different from planning to upgrade. No PC is future-proof. Even the best hardware available right now is going to be completely obsolete in a few years. You should get the best components to satisfy your current goals, but don't rule out willingness to get new components as games demand more power. Tip number 8, invest in a quality power supply and a quality motherboard. Some builders try to shave costs with getting a PSU with fewer watts or from a less respected brand. This is going to cost you more money in the long run. A failed power supply can damage many other more expensive components, costing you more than if you just spent the extra $30 to get a quality, better brand. As for a quality motherboard, when you think about it, if you were to choose one component to define your entire computer, it would probably be your motherboard, as it has the BIOS and your operating system is associated with it. In essence, your motherboard is your computer and it's the foundation for the rest of it to be built. Tip number 9, take anti-static precautions. Static discharges are fatal to sensitive components. Make sure you're working in a non-carpeted room, you have an anti-static wrist rest, you're working away from pets, and you avoid wearing synthetic clothing. Tip number 10, when you're installing your CPU, a little bit of a creaking noise when you're pushing down the lever is normal. Pressing the lever down may take a little bit more force than you originally anticipated. Don't be frightened by this. Well, that's it for this video covering tips for first-time PC builders. All of the resources that I mentioned in the video will be linked in the description. I hope these tips have been helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. I look forward to seeing you enjoy PC building and PC gaming. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. My name's David, and I'll see you next video.